Today's review is the last of the Polly's birthday beers that I've bought. I only bought 4 out of 6. This is a collaboration with Indie Rabble. It is Horizon Scan, and this is a West Coast Pale Ale. But what's it going to be like? Keep watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going back to Polly's and their brand new release on their 6th birthday anniversary. This is Horizon Scan. This is a West Coast Pale Ale. West Coast. Not East Coast, West Coast. And this is a collaboration with Indie Rabble. And this has got a few hops in it. Cascade, Citra, HBC 586 and Mosaic. West Coast IPA, or West Coast Pale I should say this is. It's one thing that I wanted to do this year is I wanted to drink more different styles. I am starting to get to a point, and as much as I still love New England IPAs, I still feel that I would never get bored of drinking them. I love them with all of my heart, but I want to try some different styles, and I think West Coast IPAs are always things that I'm a bit hit and miss. Sometimes they've been pretty good, sometimes they've been really poor, sometimes they've sort of been a hybrid where they're sort of bit West Coasty, bit East Coast, the mountain IPAs you would, and I like them as well. But I think that if I get the right ones, I'm gonna start getting into style. The back end of last year, the front end of this year, I've had drank a lot of double IPAs, and I've really got the taste for them, which is a bit worrying because they're 8% plus. But I've not drank many of double IPAs because I've always felt, oh, they're too strong, I'm not going to like them too much, and blah, 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 etc., etc. But I've really got the taste of them, and I love the flavour, and I actually starting to realise that actually they're not strong in taste, they're not alcohol. Yes, they do give you the effect because it's an 8% beer, but you don't, when you're drinking it, you don't think, oh, this is too strong for me to drink. And I've got into that, and I think more because I've had quite a few of them, and I've had some good ones as well. So I want to get to West Coast more this year. That's my challenge for this year, is to try and drink more West Coasts and try and get into them and become a bit of a mega fan of West Coast IPAs. So it's not a bit too heavy on the East New England IPAs. I want to sort of have a bit more of a rounded flavour. God knows it might take a few years until I'm really into stouts. Well, there is a stout coming on this channel soon. But anyway, I'm rabbiting on already and we haven't even opened the can yet. So this is a West Coast Pale. It's 5%. Let's crack it open and get it in a glass. I've got my Polly's glass and see what it's all about. I mean, obviously, the first thing I'm going to see is going to look different than a lot of the beers that we have on this channel. I mean, I had a few of the West Coast, that were very West Coast in style beers from Germany that I've had. So let's see what this is like. Well, I mean, I've got to admit, this as a West Coast Pale, this is a little bit lighter. It's very lager looking in the glass. It's not that sort of amber or copper coloured. It's it's a slightly darker looking lager colour, I would say. It's sort of, I don't know, it's yellowy, not hazy, clear, lots of carbonation. You can see all that carbonation jumping up. We've got literally a sliver. I want to try and give some, yeah, I mean, it's still a sliver. It's not even, it's a half a finger at most of head. Yeah, I mean, it's clear. It looks like a nice, crisp sort of beer. Let's see what the aroma's like. Yeah, I mean, it's not, you're not getting that piney sort of orangey sort of aroma, which I always really associate with West Coast beers. I'm getting quite a light, bright, malty, citrusy sort of aroma. Yeah, I mean, it smells very much like a sort of pale ale generally. It's got a little bit of floweriness to it, but it's all about sort of lemons and that sort of thing. So let's taste it. Cheers, everyone. It cuts through the flavour, you know. It's very, when you're used to drinking a lot of New England IPAs and drink this, and it's like, it's all fizzy and watery a little bit, and it's a bit like that. The mouthfeel is mega light. It is like drinking a lager, really. for me, you get much more maltiness with these sort of beers. And there is that dry bitterness. Flavour-wise, though, it's quite a light sort of citrus flavour. There's a little bit of orange coming in, a little bit of grapefruit. But really, it's all about that piney bitterness. It's a lot of bitterness with this. It's not that far away from drinking a type of German lager, a German Pilsner, you know, like Hell's or something like that, where some of those can be really light and crisp, and you can get a little bit of that sort of biscuity, sort of cracker sweetness. You're not getting that with this, but some of those sort of German beers, you can get a drier bitterness, and that's what you're getting with this. You're getting a very dry sort of flavour on the back end. It really sort of sucks all the moisture out of your mouth, and so you want to drink something else and drink this. Flavour-wise, though, I mean, there's not much in terms of, you're used to all these sort of fruity flavours that you get with your New England stuff. For me, all I'm getting in terms of flavour is a slight sort of herbally, citrusy sort of flavour, but it's very sort of subtle. I'm getting a dryness, and I get a bitterness and a little bit of pine coming in. But again, even those are subtle. The bitterness is almost just like bitter flavour. It's not like bitter in terms of orange or rind or grapefruit rind, which you sometimes get. It's just bitter and dry, and it's malty, backboned. I said I wanted to become a bigger fan of West Coast pale ales, but for me, this is just a little bit boring, a bit lacking in flavour. There's no body to the beer. The flavour is all more about the malt side of things, and it's all about dry bitterness. The fruit flavours is not really there. I'm not getting much in the way of different, there's 4 different hops in this. Looking at these hops, when you think, you could quite easily have a New England pale with Cascade, Citra, HBC 386 and Mosaic in them. And you could be talking about tropicalness and citrus fruits and all kinds of stuff like that. The Mosaic, you think of berry and the bubblegum sort of flavour. But you're not getting any of that in this beer. It doesn't matter what the hops are for me, because all I'm getting is just a drier bitterness, and that's it. I don't think the hops do any work, it doesn't, not affecting the flavour really. And it's like, what are they doing? You could just use 1 hop. Why use 4? None of them are really sort of coming to the forefront for what we expect from those sort of hops. So, and it's a difficult one to really judge, because this isn't a great example for me of a West Coast pale ale. I mean, it's not a great example of a beer, because I'm not getting the flavours that I really like. I just feel it's lacking. I don't know, there's people out there like West Coast. I think some West Coast you can get all that marmalade and orange, deep flavours, but I'm not really, it's difficult to describe this beer, and that's probably why I'm not a massive fan. But yeah, it is what it is. Maybe by the end of the year, I'll be like, I can get more out of this. I can analyse it better. But for me, it's very difficult to pick up flavour. It's very difficult to really sort of describe it. It's very sort of lager in its body. It's dry. A subtleness of lemon, I suppose. And there's subtleness of pine. It's not even as piney as some West Coast beers can be. It's just a little bit lacking for me in lots of elements, and maybe it's just because of the style is not something that I'm used to, but it's not something that I would really want to drink again. So let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Horizon Scan. This is a West Coast pale with tiny Rebels, nothing to do with this. Indie Rabble and Polly's. And yeah, I feel a little bit depressed by it, because these Polly's beers, this is the fourth one that I've had. The three before it were incredible beers. Really, really good. The double IPA and the first IPA they had especially, really, really good. Even the other IPA that was the left-handed giant one was very good, but I don't think it's quite great. But I think just because the grapefruit flavour was a bit heavy. But this to me is, it's difficult to recommend. It's just lacking in lots of different things, you know. Aroma it's lacking in. It doesn't look that exciting to look at. Flavour wise, it's drinkable, but I want more from a beer. I want something to sing, and it's got 4 hops in it, and they're not doing any work, no heavy lifting really. So I'm a little bit disappointed, and I'm a little bit concerned that I'm telling you I want to do more West Coast pales and IPAs, where when I drink stuff like this, I think I want to go back to the New England. But anyway, let's do the scores, starting with aroma. Appearance. Flavour. Value for money. I think this was the cheapest of them. It's about £4.60. And finally, my overall experience. Totting the scores up. Well, it's been, you know, I've talked earlier before, previous videos about, oh God, everyone's a highly recommended beer. It seems like we've got lots of highly recommended beers. This one is not quite even recommended. It's in the 60s. So, total score. A little bit disappointed. I do think it's just a style that I just can't really get my head around. It's just a bit boring. It's just a bit meh. That's what it is. You know, we've had those German beers, and I wasn't having huge expectations. I don't think they were overly expensive or extra special beers, but some of them had more flavour than this had, and I expect more. Even though I'm not a big fan, I expected Polly's to do something really good. So I don't know if I'm missing a trick there. Let me know if you've had this one. Let me know what you think about West Coast beers. Am I talking rubbish? Do I need to sort of develop my palate and drink more West Coast, and maybe I can critique these beers better? But I'm a little bit disappointed with this. Not really the beer for me. And so it's only in that... I can't even remember what I would call a beer in the 60s. It's been so long since I've had it. It's not recommended to me. 70s plus is recommended. 60s is like not recommended. It's not horribly terrible, but it's just not quite good enough for me to recommend. So let me know in the comments what you think of West Coast Pales. If you've had this beer, please tell me that I'm just not attuned to the style of this sort of beer, but I just feel a bit negative about it. And I was looking forward to it because I was thinking, oh, I'm trying new styles from my favourite brewery. Surely it's going to be really good. So, but yeah, a little bit disappointed. But let me know in the comments what you think of West Coast Pales or West Coast IPAs, and give me some recommendations of any West Coast beers that you think this is something you really like. Or maybe you've been like me and drink a lot of New England IPAs, and you've had a West Coast IPA that's been really good and really turned you on to them. Let me know which ones they are, and I'll check them out. I just feel the hops don't do the thing for West Coast beers. I'm not 4 different hops, flavours that I'm used to in IPAs, New England IPAs, but I'm not getting any of those flavours in this, and I just don't see the point of them in this, you know. I'm not getting those flavours. So let me know in the comments what you think. And until the next one, you know what you do. Drink a craft beer. That's a New England IPA. And keep on rocking.